Welcome to Ground Control. Don't mind the mess behind me. It is holiday decorating time. I'm so impressed with the performance of this KINGKONG LDARC Tiny Wing 450 without the gyro in it. I wanted to give you guys additional information and one more demo flight of this wing. And today when I took it out, I had wind of 4.5 to 8 miles per hour with gusts to 10. So that's the most wind I've flown it in since I removed the gyro, and it handled it really well. I mean, it does get moving around a bit because it's a very light wing, but I am so impressed with the performance of this wing compared to the plug and fly version that I wanted to give you this information. So I have a link to a PDF file. It's a setup file for the Tiny Wing. This is my setup. It will give you a good starting point and a successful maiden flight if you guys are interested in this, and I'll also give you the cost of the custom version, I guess you would call it. But I removed the gyro and the S-bus receiver that I had in it. I replaced it with just a standard full-size 4-channel receiver. Mine is a Redcon 4-channel CM421. I think it's $13 and something for that receiver. And I have a Turnigy plush 6-amp speed controller in it that supplies, I think it's 5 volt, 1.5 amp. The link that I have a link to that specific speed controller in the show notes, as well as another one that I have not tested before, but it's got, I think, 5 stars on Banggood, 28 reviews, so it would most likely be an adequate ESC. But if you want to use the ones that I specifically have and that I have tested, there will be a link in the show notes to it as well. Now, I've been flying it with 2 different LIPOs. This LIPO came with the XKJ3 Cub. It states that it is a 600 milliamp. It's a fully max 600 milliamp. It doesn't have the C rating on it. I have one of those, and I've been flying it with 4 of these, which is Sheeta 450 milliamp hour 2S LIPO, and it's a 35C. Now, it doesn't really seem to make a difference which one I fly with. The way I'm flying this wing, I had it in the air for 5 minutes and 13 seconds today, and the voltage in the pack was 7.6 volts, 3.8 volts per cell. So, you know, and I'm cruising around part of the time, I'm heavy in the throttle part of the time. So I would say, flying the way that I was flying out there, I should be able to get 7 to 7.5 minutes of flight time out of this little 450, leaving 3.5 volts per cell or 7 volts in the pack. So that's pretty good flight time, considering I do a lot of aerobatics with it when I'm flying it and I'm heavy in the throttle quite a bit. So the connection on the control horn and on the servo arm are on the outermost hole on both the servo and the control horn. I have my aileron dual rate set up at 75%, and the elevator at 75%. I have 35% expo on the aileron, 40% expo on the elevator. That makes it real smooth on the controls, but yet, you know, when you do a hard over on the sticks, you get an extremely good roll rate and plenty of elevator pulling through loops. The control surface deflection that I have on the ailerons, and this is in each direction, 8 millimeters each direction, 16 millimeter total travel, and on the elevator it's 9 millimeter in each direction, or 18 millimeters total travel on that. Now, the specified CG is 116 or 112 millimeters from the nose, where I have my CG set in a neutral balance, so that when I put the battery in it and I put my, I balance it on the CG, it's completely level. So I have a neutral balance at 116 millimeters back, which is about 5 millimeters forward to where the wire channel is. That's where I have my CG. 4 millimeters further back with a neutral balance than what's specified. I found for me, I found that the specified CG makes it a little bit nose heavy and makes it a little more difficult to pull the nose up when you're coming in for a landing. At 116 millimeters back with a neutral balance, it pivots really well right there. So, and it holds its altitude as long as you got it trimmed out properly. So the all up weight, and I don't have the LEDs in it either. So I pulled out the LEDs, pulled out the gyro, pulled out the SBEC receiver, have a standard 4-channel receiver, 6 amp ESC with the 450 2S LIPO from Sheeta 35C. The all up weight on the wing is 94.8 grams with the 2S full Emax, and it says a 600 milliamp LIPO, but I think it's more likely a 500 to 550. But it weighs 5 grams more than the Sheeta 450, so that puts the all up weight with this battery at 99.8 grams, just under 100 grams all up weight. And it flies fantastic with either one of those batteries. I will have links to not these two batteries, but the LDARC 450 battery, the battery that was designed for this wing, will be in the show notes, and a couple of other batteries that are about the same size and the same weight. But this battery weighs, let me see, I think 24.8 grams on the Sheeta, and this one weighs 29.8 grams, 5 grams heavier. So as long as you got a battery that's somewhere around 25 to 30 grams of weight, I think it's going to work fine, with this, slim dimension on the batteries. Look at the dimensions on the LDARC 450 battery that I have linked in there. And as long as you stick to those dimensions, I mean, it could be a little bit shorter, a little bit longer, but you don't want it any wider or thicker than that LDARC battery, that 450 that was designed for it. So anyway, and then the plug and fly cost. Now, you can only buy the airframe in twos. I don't know why you can't buy a single airframe, but you have to buy a pack of 2 in the kit. And I checked prices this morning. So with the price of 2 airframes, which is supposed to come with all the plastic bits and pieces and the control horns and all that kind of stuff. And then I love the motor, the stock motor and prop, which is the KINGKONG LDARC 1105, and I think that is a 5,000 kV with an ABS prop. It's a 3.8 by 3 prop, and it really pushes it extremely well. I would guesstimate that the thrust to weight ratio on my setup on this wing is somewhere between a 1.25 to 1 to a 1.4 to 1 thrust to weight ratio, because it puts it through very large loops really, really well. No problem whatsoever, and it has really good vertical climb. So anyway, back to the motor comes with 4 of those props, so you're not going to have to worry about buying props separately. So the 1105 5,000 kV motor comes with 4 of those props, 6 amp ESC, and then I selected, I've got 2.5 gram servos on here. So I selected the Emax 2.5 gram digital servos. I always prefer the digital because I think they hold their center positions better than the analog servos do. And I've used those in other projects and they work very well. So 2 of the Emax 2.5 gram digital servos which have a normal size servo connector on the end of it, so you can connect those directly up to a full-size receiver. And let me see, and the ESC, so that gives you a plug and fly cost with 1 airframe at, let me see, I think that was $53.85, and then if you add in the additional airframe, it comes to $76.96, which I think that's about $5 cheaper than the plug and fly version. So it's a little more work to put it together. It's going to be easy, putting it together, and you're going to have an extra airframe. So you're gonna have a build like I have right here, with a spare airframe, and it's going to be $5 less than what it costs for the plug-in flight version. So if you have intermediate skill level and you don't need a gyro system on the wing, I'm telling you, I prefer it without the gyro. I mean, it is extremely stable and the performance is amazing compared to the stock setup. So anyway, I wanted to give you guys all that information. Remember, there's links to everything in the show notes, including the setup file that I created, the PDF document. So now we will go out and see the third flight demonstration of this wing without the gyro and some significant wind. I'll see you out the field.
Let's see what we got. I am having such a blast with this wing. Not so much in this wind. It does get moved around a bit because it's so light. That's going into the wind. It's pretty slow. But after replacing the ESC and pulling out the gyro, this thing is so much more fun than it was. And it was fun before, but man, it is just, the performance on this now, it was just amazing to me. Look at that. I mean, that thing, it's got to have, you know, I haven't had the motor and the prop off of it to test the thrust on it, but I would say it's got to have at least a 1.3 to 1 thrust to weight ratio, the way that thing pushes vertically. And it certainly didn't have that before. So I think that, you know, I think mine, the ESC that was in it, the stock ESC in mine just was not pushing it. It was not driving the motor very well. This 1105 motor with this 3.8 by 3 prop is just really, you know, with the right ESC, it's got tons of power. Yeah, the wind is kicking up again. Look at that. Look how slow that is going into the wind. That's just amazing. I wish I had calmer wind out here this morning, but it is what it is. Going downwind, crosswind. But I really think that gyro that was in it, I don't think it was a full manual mode. I think it was like a rate mode. Because I tried to get the roll rate higher, you know, faster roll rate on it, and it seemed like no matter how much higher I pushed the movement on the elevons, I just couldn't get a faster roll rate out of it. So I think that the gyro was actually limiting it. And it's just a standard receiver in it now, so there's nothing limiting it at all. Look at that, and that was a slow speed roll, and you saw how fast it was. Coming into the wind. Look at that, how slow. Yeah, I'd say the wind is definitely pushing about 8 right now. And there's my alarm. Let's do one more skyward. Yeah, man, that's cool. All right, let's see if we can bring it in. We're gonna have to bring it across the road into the wind and try to make it over here without stalling it. All right, there we go. But this is one extremely fun micro wing. I'm just having a blast with it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.